Welcome to GeoU University, Class 4, Field Procedures 2. Our instructor today is John Newman. I'm the cameraman. My name's Trent Turk. Unfortunately, I pushed the button 15 minutes too late to record our class. So I want to bring you up to speed on what you missed in the first 15 minutes of our class. First thing that our class today involves site strategy, traverse strategy, and adopting a new traverse policy. In site strategy, which is part of what you missed, what we're talking about is what is your strategy when you pull up onto the site to do a survey. You'll be provided, before you leave the office obviously, with a field folder, and in that field folder there's going to be a contract which will be included. It'll look similar to this, along with a blue sheet and other important documents. The most important document in there though is the contract, and you need to read that contract closely. Hopefully you can read it and digest it on the way to the site if you have a second assistant or an assistant that could drive, and you can read this and really grasp what's going on in this contract. I'll show you the contract. There'll always be various tasks lined out on what you're going to be doing, such as the boundary survey. It'll tell all the details about what you're to do in the boundary, topographic and utility survey. In this particular contract had other tasks as well. It's your responsibility to read these, get very familiar with them, and understand what it is that you are responsible for as the crew leader for this project. And also you'll see that 3 of the 5 tasks were authorized there. More importantly though, you need to look at these exhibits. These exhibits are a lot of help for you. They will give you the limits of your topographic work, the limits of the boundary. There'll be an aerial photograph, and you can begin to grasp where you're going to place control points, for instance, around the perimeter. It's just a very important piece of information. There will also be an old survey likely in your package and other information that will be useful for you. So first step, get familiar with your contract. Then after you've gotten familiar with your contract, you're ready to get out of the truck and get busy. Well, we had a long discussion in the class about what items should get out of the truck with you, and it's settled upon that you need your map, obviously, or a picture of the site to tell you what to look for, and an old survey. You need your bush hook. Getting out of your truck without your bush hook, you're really getting out of the truck and trying to work without a tool. You do so much with a bush hook. You can dig and look for pins, for one thing, without having to tote a shovel around. It's obviously there to clear brush out of the way. You need your locator, shine step locator, and you need a cloth tape. We had a long discussion about cloth tapes and whether they're useful or not. Depends on the site. Some sites, corners are obvious, no need. But a cloth tape is very handy when you have distances that are too far to step, and you get so much closer, obviously, with the cloth tape. So we encourage you to use your cloth tape as well. So you've got this equipment with you and your assistant, hopefully, and you're about to walk the perimeter of the site. Suggestion there is go around the site one time. Don't make multiple trips around the site to do different tasks. Look for the pins, set up your traverse, set your positions for spur nails for other feature locations. Do all this. Get your project set up as you go around the perimeter of the property. So when you get back around to your truck, you're ready to run the survey. You've reconned for all your pins and have a good feel for what pins are in and not, and you're ready to start traversing. That brings us up to strategy for placing control points. You know, as you place control points, obviously you want to think about everything you're going to need to shoot from that control point, which means you need to do a good bit of recon as you're setting up your traverse. You're giving thought to everything you may need to shoot from that control point as you go around. So be careful about where you place your control points. Additional setup to introduce additional error and cost time on a project. Okay, so that brings us up to sketches. Very important component and the next step in your project. And that is where this video will pick up. John Newman was our instructor, and he will carry it from here. Thank you.
I know there's a head wall down there because I saw that there's something going out towards the woods, so I have to know how to have all my traverse points in that corner. So I'm going to do all my sketching first for myself. If I have an assistant, like if we're walking the site, we might be doing that together too, first day or the first part of the day. This job of mine now is a little different because it's already been, the framework's been laid out, and it's just been a slog of hand sketching and me locating.
Okay. Yeah, and that's generally what we want y'all doing, is we want y'all having an idea of what's out there and doing the sketch beforehand. If you're by yourself, you really do need to do the storm and sewer first, because inevitably you will find that where you thought that the pipe was leaving the site is not where it's leaving the site. That there's a structure you have to get that's just over that fence, just behind that wall, and your traverse point could have been set differently to see that if you had known. And what's happened before several times is we'll go out, we'll do sewer the last day on the job, last afternoon of the job, and there's a manhole welded, there's a manhole bolted shut, and then we're at the very end, we don't have the scheduled time to go out and do it, we have to go make time. So that's all information that needs to be found out before the job's ever finished. So if y'all can, you can delegate it, that works out good, have your assistant do it, but y'all have a little powwow meeting before you're finished with the site and figure out, get all your ducks in a row and figure out where those off-site structures are, if anything's missing, if anything's weird. That work for everybody?
We have clients also that ask, if you see anything unusual the first day you're out there, please let us know. And we've had sites in the past where we've had sewer lines that were dumping out into creeks and stuff like that. So as you're going across a site like that, you come across something that's just not standard, it's unusual, you need to let us know. And the best time to do this is when you're doing your sketches. Would be more than likely, or the walk around when you find out this information.
Yeah, y'all have phones, and personally I'd rather like getting those text messages, hey, this thing's weird, take a look at this picture, because it gives me a heads up of what's going on out there.
Yeah, note like if construction's going on the site and you didn't already know that was going to be the case, that'd be a good thing to let your project manager know right away.
Yeah, anything at all out of the ordinary, just send us a text. We like getting those texts.
This coincidentally had sewer dumping out into a creek.
Really?
And we notified, right?
Well, it's just a block structure, pipe going in and a pipe going out, but it was in their wetland and in their creek area. Yeah.
So it was like a homemade,
Yeah.
like a homemade
It had a
junction
road
box.
sign
It's the
over the
weirdest
top
thing.
of the structure. A road sign that said, "What's been at work" or something like that.
That was the cat.
All right, let's have a little discussion about sketches. So let's pull up, here is the sketch for this job that was saved in the folder. So page 1, we have the traverse information. Now what comments do we have about this?
Say Happy New Year.
It does say Happy New Year.
That gives us one clue of what the date might have been.
Yeah. Craig Baines, tell me something that's right about these notes.
Well, let's start with what's wrong.
Legible. But you can actually read the numbers, so that's a good thing.
Okay.
But
Jeff, tell me something that's wrong.
I got you.
Hey, Jeff, tell me something that's wrong.
No headings at the top. I don't know what columns are called.
Yeah, I don't have any site information.
Oh, did you do this?
Yeah.
There we go.
Jeff Thompson original right there.
Yeah. Ashley, give me something that's right.
Great.
The setups with the heights.
Yep. David, something wrong.
Can't quite tell, but it doesn't look like all the shot numbers are
Yeah.
there. Side shots.
Looks like the last shot on that setup might have been 107, but then again, it might not have. This may have been the last shot in that setup. All right, let's do one more. Nathan, give me something that's right.
It's got all the error there.
All the errors are wrote down. Yep, that's good.
It's got the dates of what ones were turned on each day right there. That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a great thing to have. This down the 29th you shot from those setups. Yep, good stuff to have.
Good thing that is up there is that bearing.
That initial magnetic
Initial
backside
back
bearing.
bearing, yeah.
Mhm.
That proves to us whether or not it got keyed in correctly. If you write it down correctly, we can compare the two. Because it can happen that it gets reversed.
Yeah, because it's happened before. Some of these data collectors, the buttons don't quite work right, so you punch that in and it comes in as 5 instead of 54. And then we're all confused while the site's turned all wrong. So, yep. So what else is missing?
The name, who did it?
Names.
Is there a job number?
There is a partial job number in this corner up here.
Weather.
What was that?
Weather.
Weather.
Where's the site?
Yep. Where's the location of this site?
Yeah, there's just a general lack of information. So this is the classic example of why you always write it on every page is you may end up with that being the only page that you have to work with. So it always needs a minimum job number, person doing it, right? Site location, just need some information.
Yeah. Here's what we're generally looking for. On this page on the side, the job number, site name, who's the crew chief, who's the assistant, and then write down the dates you were on the site so that we know what block range of time we're talking about here. And then up in that corner, what page number it is. Yeah,
That's important.
It is
I
important.
mean, it tells you how many pages there are to the notes.
Right, so if say the scanner doesn't work for some reason and we only get 2 pages, but there's up here it says page 2 of 3, then we'll know there's a problem, we need to talk to you. And that is because the scanner made a mistake and not a slacker. Yes, Rob?
Question, because I think Craig mentioned weather. How important is it to have notes about the weather? Notes?
What do y'all think?
Well, they used to, before the data collectors, made corrections for us, they used to have to worry about, heat waves and stuff like that. You can even look at your gun and see your heat waves. But usually those been like barometric pressure and stuff like that. And I know when I used to do really long traverses, like miles and miles and miles, curvature and refraction would also play a part in that. But data collectors nowadays, especially ours, they cancel. I mean, like they do the corrections for us.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about making that digital? Making that digital, like using like a tablet and creating like a template spreadsheet.
Yeah, has anybody thought about that before?
Takes out messy writing. There.
What?
Takes out messy writing.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to go to court, that tablet's not a legal document that you can present like that piece of paper is.
Plus the possibility that there's a.
Yeah, the biggest problem you're gonna find is cats gotta be charged to use it,
Right.
dead battery and
Sharing the room.
it's just,
Yeah.
I mean, I've explored all kind of thoughts about digital devices for doing those. I always end up, it's gonna be too much of a hassle to keep it charged and functioning, versus a paper book and a pencil. Always works.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So this information over on the side, it's really important to have that on your sheet. And then if you don't have the first shot, last shot, you can look it up in your data collector, hit Control R, and it'll show you the setups. And you can go in there and see what that point range was. You can fill that information in.
Or if we could have a stamp that says has that information. Could we have a stamp made with that information?
We have one.
We have.
We have one?
Yep.
We have a sketchbook.
We have a sketchbook stamp.
Yeah, it might be a little too big for the book.
We have a stamp with that information on it.
Yeah.
Well, that's not too hard to remember, guys.
No.
Dang.
Let's choose.
I like the cyclic sketch, I like that one a lot. I mean, the sketchbook
Mm-hmm.
stamp. Yeah, I like that one a lot. It's really good.
Yeah, and we don't know where to stamp that. We don't know how many, I mean, well, I guess, no.
Every
you can
page
stamp
number,
every
I
page,
think.
yeah.
Yeah, we can get one of those.
All right, here's page 2 of the instrument setup scans, instrument scan. Again, this is what's really good. We got dates over here. It shows what they got done the day they were on site. We have most of the point numbers. It'd be nice to have them all. We got most of them. We got all the errors. Now this sketch here is actually not too bad. See, it's got the building layout of the prison. But what's a couple things that are missing off this? North arrow. What was that?
Flood.
Road name.
There's not a road name. There's not a north arrow. So, but there is point numbers on the structures. So it's not all bad, but there's a couple little things that can be done to make it a little bit better. A north arrow would tell you which side of the prison it's on. This kind of makes it look like there's a structure inside the prison, inside the building. So maybe a little edit on the building layout instead of being down here. And then this looks like a 45-degree angle in the pipe. Is that really what's going on out there?
You would want to draw in possible varied structure there is what you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah,
That's
you
what
want to bubble that
was.
in, make a little note.
And use a straight edge.
Use a straight edge, especially for that building line. Unless the building's curvy.
Flow arrows.
Flow arrows, yes. The one little,
Find that 45-degree angle.
one little tick mark,
Did it from the
just like that.
They painted it up.
And we know without a doubt which way it looks like it's flowing. That way it tells us that pipe's flowing that way, even if our inverts don't seem right, we know it's flowing that way, and that we may have a bad invert elevation. 'Cause sometimes, especially too down in South Georgia, these structures are gonna be flat. And I mean really flat. You may not have more than 1/10 or 2 drop across 2 structures. So having that arrow tells us beyond a doubt which way you look down and saw that water flowing.
The description of what the structures are would be nice.
Yeah, because this is
AD,
storm.
Guard inlet, single wing.
Yep.
Actually, how did you figure out what they are? The descriptor on
The
the side?
description on the data collector.
Go to 644 and find out that it's a JB. And in this case, the structures, like if they drew it round, it was a manhole. There's a square right there, and it was the box. That's this little makeshift box that was in the creek. So they didn't match up with the actual structure. Yep. Flip that back over and let's look at the check shots, the error there. Wanted to make a comment.
Yep.
Look down through that. It's right there. Can you guys see if y'all see what I'm seeing?
Yeah, the horizontal is a bit much, isn't it? Or the vertical.
Vertical.
If you guys are seeing that,
765,
and you're
85.
continuing to keep on trucking, you need to call me. Or you need to be checking something, double checking your heights.
Yeah, you should have over 100 to do.
That's why we write that stuff down, is so we can go, whoa, hold on a minute.
Even if it did balance out, you could still have a lot of angle there or vertical area in just one area.
Well, here's what that's telling you. Okay, it's got, let's say there's an 800s right there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the points that you double in, it removes that error by averaging. But when you walk over to take a single solo shot, 400 feet away, you just introduced
who knows, a tenth or 1200ths of error on that position. That's telling you that your gun is out and it needs collimating. You still get a closure because you doubled. And the doubling removed that error, or averaged it. You gave you your closure. Everybody understand that?
Just for the control point.
But yeah, you got closure with your control point, but your side shots are flipping out there.
You know, whatever
And they're
that
not that
distance,
accurate.
whatever that distance is there from 99 to 1, if it's 200 foot and it's 900s out almost, which is what that's rounded to,
Yep.
all right, you multiply that times 400 foot, then what have we got? We've got a considerable difference on the top of a sewer manhole or a finished floor elevation on a building. It's things that we give the client that they design to. So that's why it's critical that we don't have those types of errors and that we're dealing with a couple hundreds versus getting up closer to a 10.
Yeah, those need to be more than just written down. They need to be written down and analyzed and thought about. What am I getting here? What is it telling me?
And I do think we talked about this and we did something to correct it.
Okay. Let's move on down to the site sketch. Y'all see that? Yeah. Okay. All right. Start with Morgan. Tell me something that's right with this sketch. That's good.
It's like,
The overhead power on
What's that?
it, the overhead power.
Yeah. What team?
we couldn't see that other side over there. I was just trying to get the whole thing into. Oh, it's cut. Okay, never mind.
Okay. Yeah, overhead power. That's a great thing to have because as everybody in this room knows, it's really hard to get that shot sometimes and get those codes that are traversing around the whole site. Having that sketch tells us here in the office how that thing's connected, even if the shots aren't quite matching up with the overhead utility shots. All right, Jeff, tell me something that's missing.
Got road names on there? Oh, I see one road name, yeah.
Railroad Avenue and dirt pavement.
It's not quite to scale, I can tell that from the, rodeo.
Right, they never will.
It's got
be.
everything important on it, but.
Yeah. You're right. We're not asking you guys to draw the survey for us. We're asking you to make just a basic sketch. So Clay, tell me something that's right with it.
It's pretty.
It's pretty.
It is pretty. I will give you that. You got the concrete hats.
It's easy to read everything.
It is. Yeah. Everything's legible. You can read all this. Zoom in on these.
You can tell what's a fence. You can tell what's power.
Mhm.
It's nice to be able to just look at the lines. You can tell what's concrete.
All right. David Tanner, tell me something that's wrong or missing. All right. I'll throw one out there.
Let's cut off.
Yeah, what's going on down here? The scanner cut the page off. So that's something when y'all are scanning the notes, be real mindful to open up that PDF when you get done scanning and just make sure that it's catching that bottom part of the sheet. Because it looks like there's not much going on down here, but there could be a sewer manhole there you wanted to show. Same
No
thing.
point number.
What's that?
No point number.
On what?
The sketch.
Hardly anything.
Yeah, there's traverse points, 9 and 8. But no, there's no point numbers on this overall sketch.
But now this would be your general sketch.
That's the overall
and
sketch.
then there's some detailed sketches of buildings and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a good sketch for the power lines and stuff like that.
How's your overall?
I'll throw in, that's in the top 15-20% of the sketches that we've got at this company. That's a decent sketch.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I do is I connect the control points with a center line type.
That's just going to be a line and a dot, line and a dot.
Line dash, line dash, line dash, for all your control. That just makes the control jump out. Control's an important part of that sketch, and it ought to be connected in the way it's surveyed.
which you do have the numbers on there, which is nice.
Yeah.
I don't see any property corner,
Yeah, no
nothing about property
monuments
lines or
called
property
out.
corners.
There's plenty of room to label like the fence sizes on there, that'd be a
Fence
good thing to
type
add.
size.
If you had your 6-foot chain link fence or whatever, but that's a good, that's size scale.
But
Address
Jamie-
on the building would be nice.
What's that?
Address on the building, it would be nice.
Type.
Yeah.
And type, so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jamie's right, a few point numbers of, like, what is that back there, B-ball?
B-ball.
What is
Basketball court.
Okay, so should have said basketball court, right? And then just a 1 or 2 point numbers back there at the corner of it helps us orient very quickly to where that is on the drawing. Once, you know, a point, you don't have to do every point number, but a smattering of point numbers, like end of the sidewalk, put a point number there. That's a big help.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right? I mean, you guys are all.
Huge.
It's so much help when y'all throw point numbers on there. Not all of them, but enough to help us control where we are as it's drawn.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big help.
And that
We've got the
requires,
concrete surfaces down pretty well. Where the point numbers help is on building corners and sewer and storm structures.
Yes.
And that's where they really help. The hard surfaces, I mean, we can figure it out.
yeah, a square asphalt pad out there, it's not gonna be that critical, but throwing a couple point numbers on those building corners or on one of those shed corners or something,
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty good.
And this goes to the timeliness of when the sketch is drawn versus when you're shooting it. If you don't have a sketch drawn while you're shooting it, you can't put those point numbers on there.
Yeah, it's ever
You just
evolving. The
cannot
sketch
do
is
it.
being added to all the time.
Your sketch is your report as you survey these sites. That's what it is. First thing you do is have that fill book with you, ready, with your pencil on the page. You can flip it out with your left hand and you're ready to make a move. That ought to be a reflex.
When
There's
y'all
my
were,
lecture.
when y'all were saying putting point numbers on the building corners, a lot of times with just an overview of everything, I'll go and draw the building again in more detail, and I put the shot numbers on it like that right there. Do y'all want the shot numbers on both, or is that good enough just having it on the detail?
I think it'd be good to have maybe 1 or 2 or 3 on the overall. That way we can align that with the drawing. And then also that helps us define how that's rotated on the main drawing as well, your detail drawing.
And maybe I'm wrong, y'all correct me, because PMs. But don't bog yourself down trying to get every single point number on that because of what we're saying here. I don't think that's true either. Some point numbers though are important. There's none on that
Well,
that I see.
with that overall, the traverse is on there, so immediately, like one of the first things I do is I connect my
good.
traverse line, and I know how my traverse is, so when I lay that down and I see those traverse points, I already know how that thing's laying, whether or not there's more.
There's more.
So he's got numbers on
Got some
there.
You
numbers.
got it. I did not see those, and that's good.
And there's, I didn't throw every point number, but I threw 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like there's one up
probably
here.
one up there.
It's kind
I
of.
think the answer to Clay's question is if you have point numbers on either the detail sketch or the overall sketch, either one's fine. It doesn't have to be on both.
You know, just some, right, you know. I always drew a circle around the point number. It made it jump out from all the other stuff.
And also, when you have multiple buildings on a site, label that as, if you shot it as building 4, label it on there, building 4, so it's easy for us to know which building we're looking at.
Mm-hmm. All right. Who have I not called on yet to speak? Okay. All right, Trent. What's good about this sketch?
What's good about that?
What's good about this sketch?
You use straight edge.
Okay. Tim, what's wrong with it?
I like the straight edge, but I don't know what that is. And I'm pretty good idea it's a building,
Mm-hmm.
but is it 1 story, 2 story, brick, address? But all that stuff's on another sketch, right? All those details.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, but the purpose of this is not to everybody look at Colton, ask him what he did right or wrong.
He's
It's
found
just
this
a,
book over here, so.
yeah, he's over here defending himself. You don't have to do that, Colton. It's just a general idea because we've all been kind of off the same page for so long now purpose of this is just get us all back on the
That's
same
right.
page, get an idea of what we should all be doing, generally speaking. We don't end up with, well, we got 7 crews now, so 7 different survey companies producing sketches.
Time check, you're about halfway time-wise, so I don't know where you're on your schedule.
Good.
Yeah, good.
Okay. All right, so this is a good sketch. It's got the building measurements. It's got some shot numbers on there. It's got the job number, the job name, and the crew up here in the corner. It's all real good stuff to have.
And when we see 44 foot, we assume that's 44.0. That ain't just rounding to the nearest foot.
It looked like 44.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's not, that 44.4 shouldn't be 44, it should be 44.4. So that you actually measured it.
Right. So you want to measure all your buildings really accurately. Don't just assume to the nearest foot and that your shots will cover you, because sometimes those reflectorless shots they don't come in just right. They bounce off a different object. So yeah, Gene's right. If it says 44, it needs to be 44.0, not about 44.
If it is 44 plus or minus, if you could not measure it, for instance,
Mhm.
well then 44 plus or minus
Right.
tells
Yeah.
the drafter, okay,
Yeah, tells me not to hold that 44 foot
Yeah,
exactly,
right.
but that is generally 44 foot.
Then we may go in and create 90s and make building lines square to project those corners.
All right, last sketch on this job. We've got, this is the storm and sewer sketch. So we got job number, date, and all that information up there. That's good stuff. So now, what's missing? What's the big glaring thing that?
north area,
That's one thing. It's missing. What's something else?
Roads, buildings, anything oriented to.
Anything to orient to. The point numbers are great, but sometimes, especially when we're working with updates, the point you shot is not the point we bring into the drawing, because then it would overwrite older points. Sometimes we have to bump that up by 1,000 or 2,000, and sometimes it just doesn't work right. Through no fault of you guys, but through fault of us, we end up with different point numbers. So having that overall sketch, nothing great, nothing detailed, but just the building is generally in this area. There's a road here and a road there. It tells us where this storm and sewer is oriented on that site, which way we need to have our sheet, whether it's this way or turn it over that way. All right.
Generally, for all sketches related to a site, you want north to be the same direction
Right.
for each sketch. So each time we look at a page, north is the same.
Mhm.
That's a big help, whether you're gonna go to the right of the page, up, or whatever works best.
And in this case, you stood on the road and sketched it, so it's relative to the other sketches. We just don't know that until we start punching numbers in.
All right. Anybody else got any comments or anything?
That welded statement immediately makes you call the office.
Mhm.
That was fun.
What do we do about that?
We had
got it cut open.
had to get it cut open.
Yeah,
Was that
yeah.
when I went down there? Was that, cause I
But
was
we
waiting
had
on the guy.
we had to go
welding?
back to do it.
Because it's prison, is that why they
Yes.
Yeah, for security
They're
reasons.
gonna crawl out through that 8 inches. Real bad.
That was all that movie.
Trying to cash that in it.
So yeah, if you could, this is another perk to doing your sketch and doing your storm and sewer either first or very early in the job. You find out about bolted manholes, you find out about welded manholes. It gives you time while you're still on site to get that fixed, taken care of, open, whatever needs to be done, and not on the last day when there's no time to get it taken care of.
Structure 642.
This one. Okay. All right. What's missing?
Out.
To invert out? Okay. It just got missed.
Line at the top. Pipe coming in from the north, or whatever direction
Yep.
it is, should have size on it.
Right, so we're in here, we're looking at the office, we get a sketch like this. We're seeing this line and assuming there's a pipe coming in. I don't know if it is or not, but that would need to be that would need to be labeled if it is a pipe coming in, and pipe going out, same thing.
Utility guys were marking these lines, so this specific case was they were marking them, they drew the lines that were painted on the ground, but when the structure got pulled, some information got missed and didn't get added to the structure, so we had to actually get that when we went back to get the unwelding. So technically, our client could have held our feet to the fire and said, go get me my inverts, and it's on our dime, and this is how far away?
3 hours.
A 6-hour day to go get 2 pipes.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up the sketch part. Now we're going to get into our traverse procedures policy. So it came out today. We start getting some news out.
It's gonna make your head hurt.
2 pages, right? Or just 1 page?
So 1 or 2?
2 pages.
Oh, 2 pages. All right.
Probably 1 page.
So it turns out monumentation was not a word. And surveying, that's a verb.
All right. All right, everybody got a copy? So we're going to talk about our new traverse policies being implemented starting today. So what we're looking at is, first off, the control point placement strategy. You want to run your control points, your main traverse point, near the perimeter of the property lines of the site. Stay generally close to the property lines. You don't want to be running a 3-point traverse in the middle of the shopping center and then spurting off and going around 14 acres of the site. It's not going to lead to good closure, and you're going to have some bad points in there, so you want to avoid that. But you want to be near the property lines, and then you want to set your spur points as you're running your traverse. You don't want to set out and have a plan to run the traverse first, then come back and set up again on the points to locate the site, and then set up again to throw spurs as needed. You want to avoid all that. It just adds extra setups, adds extra time to the job. You want to be in the mindset of walking around, and as you're at a setup, what do I need to do from this setup? Well, I need to throw a spur down there to get that creek. I need a spur over there to get that building corner, and I need to get all these shots while I'm set up right here. Just want to keep that in mind as you go around the site.
See, I get the logic behind doing that, right? It's more efficient,
Saves time.
and it leads to less error.
All right, and then the type of control points we set. Generally speaking, when we do topographic surveys, there's going to be construction on that site. And if there's going to be construction, both in the office, what we have to do is we have to label those control points for another surveyor to use, or we may be actually using those control points ourselves. And we'll definitely use those control points as benchmarks for the contractor to go out there and get elevation on the site. So you always want to set two or three rebar and make them numbers 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11, a sequential number. So you can go back out there, and when you're staking, you can find those points, set up on them again, and if one of them's out, then you still have a third point you can use to get on the site datum.
John, can you pop up the survey, that old survey, or something about that site we're working on, a picture of it?
Yeah,
Let's
that
talk
plat.
about. So some strategy here for control points. Let's say they're gonna rebuild that prison. Is where would we put some control points that would be permanent for us to come back to?
Across the right of way.
Yeah, that's a good answer, Rob. You wanna, and those are the ones you would want a monument with rebars, all right?
Mm-hmm.
But then as you go around the perimeter of the site, don't take rebars with you, use 50, use 60 pennies. You just wanna leave some a set of 3 rebars along there that are removed and out of the way.
Mm-hmm. Right, because if it's a topo and they're going to rebuild this site, because we don't know exactly what they're going to do right now, So if they do rebuild this site, they're gonna come in, they're just gonna mass grade everything. So assume that any control point in the middle of the site is gonna be gone. So you wanna set your points outside the site, opposite side of the road, to just the permanent control rebar. As you're going along the site, you can just use mag nails, use 60Ds, whatever it needs to get back here in the woods. Just something to set up on Tobo, and if it's gone, it's not a great big deal.
A word of caution about using rebars. What else are rebars used for?
Property corners.
Right. So, use some good logic here. Don't put a control point in near where a property corner looks like it ought to be. Don't do that if you can avoid it. Because that leads to us coming back 5 years from now, surveying and finding a rebar and scratching our head, trying to figure out, well, how does rebar get here? It's 4 feet off.
Because the caps get tore off of them and
Yeah,
they become
caps
property
will pass.
corners.
Mm-hmm.
And it just leads to a lot of confusion. So avoid putting a rebar near where obviously a corner might. That's just not a good thing.
Jamie, there's something to say?
Yes, do the 2 to 3 control points need to be part of the traverse, or can they be doubled in from the main traverse?
No, that's a discussion to have.
I'll
Somebody
answer
else
it
know.
doubled in, as long as they're put in with fixed targets.
If they come off your main control and they're doubled in, they don't have to be part of the main traverse, in
Right.
my opinion.
I agree.
Is that
Yep.
Sometimes we have to do that anyway to get a good datum, so.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that makes it easier for you to place those in strategic spots and not be handcuffed about running your traverse through it.
That's what I'm having to do right now. There's no way I could set a
Yeah,
rebar.
it
and
may
do
not be a
tear
good
it out.
spot for you to locate from, but it's an ideal spot for that point to stay there for 20 years and us use it.
But you can
Mhm.
spur one.
Yeah, I'm spurring
So you
mag
do that,
nails,
right.
so it's not one of my
Yep.
All right, so yeah, there you go. You don't have to have the traverse points. They don't have to necessarily be part of your traverse. They seem to be permanent control in a safe spot. We can come back to in 5, 10, 20 years.
If you see somebody else's control, don't set control right
Use
beside
it.
theirs, use it.
Use it.
Yeah, use it. Absolutely.
Shoot that joker and call it what it is, and we'll throw that thing on there. We'll label it up as our
Mhm.
benchmark too.
What about, property point?
Use those.
Mhm.
Can a property corner be a traverse point?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Should a property corner be a traverse point?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be the optimum. Your perfect traverse is that you're able to see in between every property corner and run fixed targets between them. That's the best traverse in the world. It can't ever happen, likely, but that would be it. So your goal would be to occupy a property corner as a control point.
Mhm.
Just make sure the description's accurate.
Should we call it others if we set up on someone else's traverse? Is that ever helpful to say?
It is,
others,
yeah.
or-
With others or nail found, rebar found.
There's a cap, I'll put the company name on there.
Yeah, if there's a name on it, put it in your notes for sure. We call them and get their
Right,
name.
because that way when somebody else is going out to the site next year to update it, they're not looking for a Geo cap
Yeah.
and finding a Rochester cap and getting confused.
Yeah, you still call it your number for your
Yeah.
traverse, but you throw in that descriptor somehow to identify that it was somebody else's control.
Question about that.
Yeah.
If you're using a corner as a traverse point, do you punch in a code as MN or CP first?
A space will
Space, double code it.
double code it.
So if you double code it, then it comes in on the points layer for traverse points, and it comes in on the points layer for property corners, and then we don't miss it here in the office accidentally.
And we don't have two shots on top of each other that we go, okay, which one's the traverse, which one's the pin. We know that they're one and the same.
Mhm. Yeah. This little something helped us in the office. And then Trent, did you want to touch on flagging?
Nope. I think everybody knows where I stand on that.
Yeah, just don't go nuts with it. You don't need 20-foot streamers up into the trees.
What
Anything
colors is
like that.
everybody using for their control points?
Pink and blue.
Pink and blue for control, blue for spurt.
Yep, pink and blue for control
What's
points.
everybody use on property corner?
Pink.
Lots of pink. As high as you can throw it in the tree.
So I have a question about the
Yes.
whole spur thing
Mhm.
and using blue. Like when I go on the Colt site, because I know that Colt likes to know where he's taking shots, so he puts like little pieces of flagging where in the woods you can't see it, but when you walk back there, you know
spur
I
and
know
control.
you use pink and blue, but like other people use blue.
Mhm.
Just,
So-
just use pink and blue on all of them.
On all of them?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I do because I'm like, I can't tell the difference between my topo shot and my spur. So I use pink and blue.
All right, so if it's a point the instrument can set up on, pink and blue. That way everybody can come back and find it if need be. All right, so now we're going to get into the big changes we're implementing today. How we locate traverse points and spur points. So for our main control points, we're going to keep doing the leapfrog method. Use a fixed back sight, fixed foresight. But we want y'all to use doubled angles, so turn 2 rounds. So reverse, forward, flop the gun, reverse, forward, and then that's 1 round. Then you do it again, 2 rounds. You get a good check on what you're doing. The data collector will show you on the screen what those errors are if you do 2 rounds, and you can judge if it's a good round or not.
Your tolerances should be set in your data collector to not allow for huge errors on those direct and indirects.
Yeah, yeah, and if it gives a big error, I think it does.
It's 10 seconds, right?
I don't remember what the numbers are, but it'll spit it out. It's not good. Jeff?
Isn't this basically what we have been doing? I thought we had.
This is what we have been
Okay.
doing. Yeah, we're about to get into what's going to be different. All right. So that's what we have been doing. We'll keep doing that for control points. It's working well, and we're getting good closures. I don't see it. Oh, there it is. We'll get to it in the second page. All right. So spur points. We're going to ask you all to start doing something a little different with spur points. ALTA standards require us to have redundant measurements on property corners. So the way we're going to start doing that is by having 2 different classes of spur points. So anytime you shoot a spur nail with the plan being to shoot a property corner, you need to code that SP-CP in the number. That's going to tell us in the field, or tell us in the office, that that's going to be for a control point for property corners, and that you double it in. So anytime you plan on shooting a pin, that spur nail needs to be doubled in with a fixed target, just like you would a control point.
Does that make sense to everybody? So if it's not your main traverse point, like a number 4, 5, 6, if it's number 50, but you double it in because you intend to shoot a property corner from it, it's spur dash CP 50. That lets us know that that was doubled in. We can use it for a benchmark, or we can send another crew out to come off of that to go shoot some important stuff.
It's not spur dash CP dash 50, it's spur dash CP 50,
Yeah.
whereas with a regular control point it'd be CP dash 50.
Correct.
Correct.
Because everything after the dash is your descriptor.
All right, well, this has SP-CP-.
And well, that'll work too.
Okay, that's a bit of an
That-
error. That
the
dash
first-
shouldn't be there.
The first
Okay.
dash is what creates what we need.
Right.
Yeah, mark that out.
So tell me if I'm jumping ahead here, but, the numbering system for these,
We're about to get into that.
We're jumping ahead. All right, so and then we're going to ask you guys, if you're going to shoot spurs for property corners, only go 1 spur line, only 1 spur nail off your main control. If you need to go more than 1, 2, or 3, tie back into a known point. Now, what known point means is it could be you shot a property corner from a different setup, or reshoot that property corner, and that'll tell you if your little spur line you got going on is good or not. If you shot a pin, you shot another control point, whatever you do, you want to have a redundant measurement, just so that you can check, make sure that spur line is not off somewhere. You had a bad back sight, somebody knocked the instrument legs, anything like that. You want to guarantee that didn't happen, especially with property corners. They're just so important. Okay, good. Everybody good for that? Okay, so we'll move on to spur topo point. Now, the purpose of these spurs, SP-TP, whatever the number is just for topo in the woods, general site location, gutter lines. With those, all you need to do is just shoot it with a rod. You don't need to be throwing spurs out to do topo in the woods with a fixed target. It's not necessary. If you want to, if you're going to set up anyways, then I understand that, that's fine, and we're not telling you not to do it. We're just telling you you don't need to be dragging the tripod out, setting up over a point, shooting it if you're only going topo, and picking it up and moving it over to another point. You don't need to do all that.
This is really, mainly isn't for ground shots. You know, you need 18 more shots on the side of the hill.
Mm-hmm.
This is your chance to throw a real easy point up there, take that gun up there and not have to move all your,
speeds you up, 'cause that way you're throwing your spurs and you're not gonna have to occupy it at that time, you're gonna occupy it later when you finish.
And
your
I believe a lot of you guys are probably already using that it's just we're telling you to code it so that we know what the points are. You're
Mhm.
probably already doing that method somewhat, but the coding is gonna tell us what the point is good for.
Big thing you gotta learn is that TP versus CP in that descriptor. If it's got TP in it, we know it was just done with a pole. Everybody knows. You'll know in the future. When you see that descriptor on that point number, you'll know, oh, that's just a topo point, I can't put a pin in from it. Right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. And we're also going to ask you, anytime you shoot a pin or you shoot a spur nail with your rod, have it braced against something. Your bush axe makes a great brace. You can jam that thing in the ground, hold it next to the pole, and you've got a brace where you can shoot that. It's a lot easier than carrying around a bipod. And since we all know how to sharpen one now, we should have it with us all the time. Jeff, did you have some to add?
I was curious about the bracing it with a bush hook. I've never seen that. Had no idea what.
Yeah, and since you got to have it anyways, it makes a great brace.
So just hold the bush hook against it.
Yeah,
Stab it in the ground.
stab it in the ground.
Lean it over.
Lean it over. Then pull it over where, and you do the whole together and it becomes a bipod.
All right.
How shaky
I've
hold
done
the
it with
rod,
two
you need to
sticks
let the
before.
Iron know that it needs to be reshot.
And if you're really good, you do that, and then you put your forehead up there, and you've got a trump. Seriously.
It works.
Okay.
It works. It does work.
Something John just said is very important. You can't skip over what John just said. I mean, it's the very important part of taking a shot. When you're taking a shot on a pin, and you're trying to brace it, and the shot's being taken, if you were wiggling when the shot was taken, you've got to let the creature know. You got to let them know.
Mhm.
And
You
if
gotta
you're
reshoot
shooting
it.
it, you know it, you just reshoot it, right? But if there's somebody else working with you, you gotta have that same thought process.
Another good way of doing that is having the prism turned away from the instrument until you're steadied up, and then turn the prism to the instrument. Then you know it's good.
The whole SP-CPXX, and that's the number that was?
Yeah, the XX is the number.
Instead of like a description of what it is?
Why do we have?
No, you're right. Ashley's
Yeah,
right. Yeah, that's the
That
description.
would
You're right.
confuse.
It'd be 60 days.
Yeah, it'd be CP
Right,
60.
but, yeah, you can still put,
That's a wild card.
yeah, the description.
Oh, okay, I just
You
didn't,
put all
I
of
just,
it in there.
I just wanna make sure I'm doing it right, not being like, I just figured it was gonna come in as
Ashley
$99.
calling me out.
Just saying. I just don't like going out and not knowing what I'm looking for. If I'm looking for
Right,
X
no.
drive or 60.
No, you're right. We
rag.
misspoke.
So everybody, while we're here, so we don't have to reprint this, mark through that, where it says SP-CT-XX, mark through that dash, that second dash should not be there.
That's on spur control point.
Right. That's just an error. And Gene and I are going back and forth trying to figure it out.
It'll be something like SP-CP60D.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Or CP that.
Then if you go to page 2, the next major change we're going to ask of you guys is the way we locate property corners. Now, ALTA standards require redundant multiple measurements to property corners, and a single shot's not doing that. We've been doing that for years. We've got to get away from that and get back into a habit of shooting pins. So we've talked about it, had a lot of discussions, and this is the easiest thing we came up with to get those redundant measurements. As you're walking around, you find a pin. First thing you want to do is shoot that pin like you normally would, MN dash wherever the pin is. Well, then you take a check shot in your backside. That'll tell you if the gun is 0, if it's good. If you need to re-zero the gun, then re-zero it, and then turn around again and take a second shot on that same pin. Only this time call it check dash MN. That gives us 2 shots, and it gives us a backside shot, so we can stick to the ALTA guidelines and the standards, and then maintain that redundant measurements.
Do we need to take when we take the check shot, do we also need to take the topo check shot? Like go into topo and take a check shot on that? Like we do when we're normally
Yes, yeah.
taking
When you take your check shot on the backside, you want to store that.
Yeah, we want a physical shot
Okay. Right.
in between these 2 shots.
Right, because if you turn the gun to the backside and it's checking real good, well, you know it checked good, but we don't know that. And then when we're looking at the points 2 years from now, we still don't know that. Whereas an actual shot on that point tells us right off the bat, that was a good shot.
Are you asking about the check backside function?
Yeah, because you usually do, check backside turn, get that, and then you get a physical topo shot on that when you're doing your regular backside check before you pull up or whatever. And I was asking if you wanted that also between these two shots.
We do, because what we're looking for is we're looking for, say, number 100 is your pin. We're looking for 101 to be a check shot in the backside, 102 to be a check shot on the pin. It's a little extra work, but it's going to guarantee we get good measurements, and it's actually going to make us legal without the standards again.
And the key is, and it's not an absolute deal breaker if you were to code both of them on MN, but the problem we run into is we do have pin cushions occasionally at a corner. So imagine if you shot something, you got MN and MN. And even though we kind of know what our process is with the checks, and we're going to have 3 shots basically identifying that particular corner, the check shot's key because we can cut check shots off and only have 1 shot. The check shot's allowing us to compare it and make sure that it's good.
Jeff's asking now, I think, if you're in the data collector and you hit shut your measure topo, the bottom says check backside. You hit that, hit turn, and measure.
It turns,
and
it
then it stores
measures,
it.
it
He's
stores
asking,
it.
do you want us to go back into measure topo, get an additional check? Okay.
Right, because the same thing. You zeroed the gun, and we trust that you zeroed the gun.
Gotcha.
But there's no point there. There's no proof
Okay.
there. If somebody ever questions our measurements, we've got no proof that we ever took that backside shot.
Yeah, earlier on, I was under the impression that when you did that, check it and turn, that stored it and that was visible in the raw or something.
Well, it's visible in the raw, but the raw is something that we physically have to go into to dig in. And if we process it, we're not going to go through every one and check that raw all the time. So we've got the shots popping up on the screen. It takes a few more seconds, but it meets our out to the requirement is what our main goal is here of doubling in or getting the redundant measurements, not doubling the redundancy.
Just for the record,
Yep.
we don't need to turn 7 on. We just needed to pop 1 on the pin, 1 on the backside, and then a check on the.
Right, that's all you need to do. Yep. All right, so we good on that? It's a major change from what we've been doing for the past several years, but this is going to get us back where we need to be. All right, last thing we're
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
If we're setting a pin, do we need to do the same thing?
I would say no. What do y'all think?
Well, when I was at my last company, every pin I shot, I had to carry on bipod legs. I topoed with bipod legs on because I would shoot pins. I would have to turn rounds to them, and when I would set pin, I'd have to turn rounds to them. I mean, I don't know how that was aggravating as hell because I hate topoing with bipod legs on. They just get in your way. But every time I had to set up, every time I touched a rebar, I had to turn rounds to it. I just don't. I mean, even when I set them.
Well, with
Now
setting the
how-
pins, you're staking to it, you're creating and you're getting a good position for the stake point. All right, there's one accuracy. Then you're going to set back up on that when you're done and you're physically going to shoot it again. Shoot a check shot. Maybe we shoot a check shot with it, I don't know, to prove that.
Well, I mean, I think, kind of like you said, you're getting on the pin, so you're locating it once. And then when you actually set back up on it and shoot it, that's the second time you've actually shot it, but you've only stored it once.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's enough.
so that's the redundant measurement there. So you got the stakeout point and you have the actual shot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with that. I mean, with setting our pin,
Yeah.
a single shot on setting a pin.
Especially if you have to set like 20. Like off the road.
Yeah. All right. Any more questions about that? No. All right. Well, let's go to last thing we're going to cover is the point numbers. And this is generally what we've been doing all along. It's just to reiterate that and actually get it on paper as our policy. That when you're the primary crew on site, which most of the time we're running one crew on a site. So every now and then we'll run multiple crews on a site. But your shots are going to be 1 through 29.99. Your control points, your spurs, are going to be between 1 and 99. And all your side shots are above 100. If you're the second crew on a site, you want to make sure you do the same thing, just at a higher range, 3,000 for example. So if you're a second crew on site, all your spur nails, all your control points need to be 3001 to 3099. and getting your side shots 3100 above. Okay, and then what have we been doing for GPS points?
5,000.
We changed.
This is the new.
This is the new.
So it's 1 to 299 or 29.99. Crew 1. Crew 2 is 3,000 to, well, I guess all the way up to 69.99.
Yeah.
So you get a big point range there for both crews.
Mhm.
There should be plenty for most sites. That made us skip over 5,000 so we could give kind of equal portions of the shot ranges. So then you go to 7,000. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, getting to 7,000, that'll be your GPS points. If you're going to be locating control points for eGPS to get a site on datum, you're going to be 7,000 and then whatever that control point is. So if you're shooting 7,000, if you're shooting number 3 for eGPS, call it 7,003. Makes everything nice and clean here in the office. We can just move those points around as needed. And then if you're going to locate with the eGPS, those are going to be points 7,100 and above. So whatever range you're working in, 1 to 99 is your control points and your spurs. 100 plus is going to be your side shots. And then we'll keep the 9,000 range for all our calc points and working points.
And it's possible we were to get a site that needed more than 100 control points. We have
It's possible.
And that's just a upfront discussion that, you know, you and the PM need to talk about, hey, we're gonna have an aberration here, we're gonna change this and reserve 0 through 500 for control, for instance.
And I've had, I think, 1 or 2 jobs where I've gone over
There are a
3,000.
few, but they're just so few and far between, we didn't feel like we needed to incorporate it into the policy. It's just
Right.
an exception that you have to make.
Yeah, when you hit the site, if you look at it and you go, okay, I know Tim's coming out here in 2 days, I'm gonna shoot 3,000 points on this, then obviously you're not gonna give him 3,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this'll fit the bill for 98% of the time.
Yeah. Okay, are there any comments or questions about anything?
I tried to find a 3-hole punch for you guys and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, keep the traverse policy in your notebooks, that you look at it and remember it, because it is a big change. It takes a couple of weeks to get us all used to it.
These notes here going on the server.
Yes, they're on the server under today's class. You get on the server, go to H, Field Resources, GeoU University. And that's where all the notes from the different classes will be. Today's class is Class 4, Field Procedures 2. Okay.
Who's our next speaker?
I think it's to be, I don't know, Craig maybe?
3. Craig's doing construction. We're gonna need field procedures 3 prior to doing construction.
Mm-hmm.
To be determined.
To be determined.
We'll figure that out.
All right. Have a good evening.
Thank you. It's older than the prison bus. Yeah.
It would have been like, hey, you get out of there. Okay, I mean, like, it was like 20 feet from the fence. Like half the walls falling in. It was like, guys, come on. Don't you go in there. It's not safe in there.
I mean, it's grown up. I didn't even know where the fence was on the pond.
Oh.